Well, time for another silver update, and basically this could be more of a broader commodity update. And also want people not to worry too much because problems have been going on forever, and that's just the way it is. Um, a lot of people get into this panic mode and they actually overreact. Sometimes, this sign above her head probably has the answer right here as long as you don't do it to excess. Having a drink to calm yourself down, having a glass of wine or whatever, may be the answer once in a while to some of the problems because as long as you don't do it to excess, because people tend to have a lot of things they have to deal with. Now, I mentioned, in fact, about my dad having the umbriagos in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and on. That place did quite well because of problems that were going on back in the 50s. You had, Sputnik, the problems with the communist wall going up, and then you had the 60s with all the changes that happened, and, Vietnam War, the hippies, the whole changes in society, and, drug problems that cropped up everywhere. So, there's been things going on forever and a day in this country, and all across the world. So it's not to say that you should ignore it, be an ostrich, and keep your head in a hole. But sometimes people get off on tangents. I don't like Alex Jones, to tell you the truth. That's what I'm driving at. Sometimes if you just looking for an answer, have a glass of wine. Don't have the whole bottle, but have a glass. So I want to talk a little bit about silver and also platinum. There's a little interesting fact that came up. And I was talking about this last year and off and on here and there about platinum and palladium and being in short supply. Like in 2011, for instance. If this was silver, they'd be really spewing this out left and right. But for instance, in 2011, platinum and palladium, and you can really see the numbers a lot more clear because they're really coming from two areas. South Africa and Russia is over 80% of the world's supply, correct, on platinum and palladium. Well, they had record amounts of demand used up globally, and they didn't have enough to supply the world demand, and guess what? They had to pull out of stockpiles in the case of Russia and in the case of South Africa to meet the demand. Yet the price went down. You find that interesting? I find that conspiratorial interesting. So I don't know what the thing is. It's like, I wish I would have known it's going down. If you're looking at the facts, you don't know how the hell it's going to go. And that's why sometimes I have a feeling that, and a suspicion that, the price discoveries futures markets are rigged a lot of times. They probably are. Not just in silver, but in maybe other things too. Because sometimes I think things are a no-brainer. It's not, I don't see how market forces could have drove the prices down. Now, recently, with platinum, if you remember about the 35 workers that were machine gunned down in South Africa about a month ago, and then they finally, the platinum prices were going up for that reason, and they finally had an agreement, and they said workers go back. Well, guess what happened just recently? 12,000, this is just like red hot off the presses, and I'm talking today is in October 5th, Friday. 12,000 illegally striking workers have been fired by Anglo-American Platinum in South Africa. And actually, another worker was found dead. Some, unrelated to the 35 that were machine gunned down last month. Another worker was found dead. So, why are platinum prices so low? Why is platinum below the price of gold? At these prices, they're not going to be able to supply the demand that's needed for the world. So, the prices are going to have to go up. I don't know how the futures market's going to keep this down. I don't know why it's like that. But, I have a tendency to believe there's a little bit of a conspiracy going on there. But maybe, maybe not. I tend to think it's not. I think commodities are pretty much, there's a lot of games going on in a lot of commodities, not just silver. It's a lot of them. But as far as also in South Africa, there's also strikes going on with the truckers. The truckers. It's not mentioned in a lot of these other articles, but there's problems going on with the truckers. So a lot of things aren't being, gasoline is not being trucked around and stuff like that. There's problems in hospitals having like backup fuel storage not ready. And if the truckers aren't trucking, you see, platinum and mining is very energy intensive, and they don't just have, what they have to do is they have to use generators because they're remote areas. So that means you have to bring in diesel fuel. You see, it's a highly intensive, energy-intensive operation. So if truckers are on strike and they're having problems getting diesel fuel and things like that and gasoline out there, Well, that's bringing down the mining operations too. So that's something else. That's something else. Now, I think platinum is going to go way the hell up, and so is palladium and silver. All of them. All of them. I think they're all going to run together. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the food situation in the world. Now, the food situation in the world. Actually, this is off the United Nations. This is their site, FAO.org, and I'll post a link where this chart is found. It's actually a public chart. It's not copyrighted in any way. It's right off the UN. It's Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index, and you want to pay attention to this orange line. In 2008, and food actually kind of corresponds very closely with oil. Like, I don't want people to get tunnel vision just on silver, because this will give you an idea of when to buy and sell for small amounts, because I think you don't want to actually wait to try to find the last super spike, unless you're the Illuminati. They'll know. But what I'm getting at is, like, silver, food, oil, they tend to run together. They tend to run together along with gold. But when silver gets way ahead of gold, and you can sell, 25 ounces of silver, 30 ounces of silver, and get an ounce of gold, that's when you probably should sell some silver and maybe buy more food storage, smart food storage. Now, this orange line represents the food index, and if you look back here, this is 2008. 2008, you had a super spike in food, and then it crashed down. That was the world food crisis when it had this super spike, and it did correspond pretty close to the oil prices. And oil crashed too, food crashed, all the commodities crashed. Now, in 2011, we had the super spike again. Early 2011, that's when silver was going up. Now, what is expected is that it's actually going to go exceed its highest levels, and it's going to stay high, and it's just due to weather. Now, if you combine this with tensions in the Middle East and oil goes way up, oil has a tendency to, high oil prices will also bring the price of food up a lot too, due to transportation costs and due to the actual cost of harvesting and cultivating the crops, and also the fertilizers and everything else that's involved. So that's going to correspond with silver. Silver's going to go up. But at certain times, silver's going to get ahead of food, oil, and everything else. And what I'm saying to you average middle class people, I'm giving this to, because I don't think any really super high end people are listening to me. And I don't care about them listening to me. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of bullshit artists out there to advise them. Actually, if they listen to me, they'd probably be 100 times better off. But what I would say is sell some of the silver if you start seeing it get way ahead of itself, and trade it for another asset class that's hardcore that you can use. And I want to reemphasize this. People who do not have at least a year's worth of food storage, more like 2 years worth of food storage, you should not be buying silver even now. You should be buying food. You should be buying food. Make sure you have food first. Food is more important as emergency backup than silver. I'll guarantee you that. It's nice to have a lot of silver, but food is first. I'm talking about survivability. Now, this was something else, too, talking about, I looked at the chart. The world food prices rose in September and will remain close to the 2008 crisis levels, according to the United Nations Food Agency. Now, here's something else. After we had this drought in the United States, the first major snowfall of the year and a cold snap will hit northern Midwest in the USA and harm corn and soybean crops and delay the harvest, according to the National Weather Service. Now, I want to put out a little statement about this weather-related garbage that's going on. I know there's things that people will say that it's from the, I don't know, it's the 2012 Mayan calendar, or it's, I don't know. It could be something with the earth changes. It could be something with the Illuminati and they're running HAARP and the HAARP machines making the weather do this and that. Actually, I don't know. There could be truth to some of this stuff. And actually, I do want to point out something. If you looked at, I've known this stuff for years, okay? Decades. I'm not somebody that's new to this stuff. And I'm not a conspiracy freak. I'm a factoid freak, okay? I stick with facts. Facts, 110%. And I don't let them bother me, but I just want to put out stuff that's real, and I'm not going to ignore the facts. But if you look at a guy like Dr. Livingston, he used to work for like this weather modification program in the government and in the Air Force and the Army. And during the Vietnam War. He stated they used weather modification to make an extra heavy monsoon season in Vietnam, which slowed down the movement of goods and products and military hardware going down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. He says it works. This is Dr. Livingston. You can look him up. He's not a conspiracy freak. He's a guy. He knows his stuff. I don't know how old he is, but I read he was old back more than 10 years ago. So he's up there in age. I mean, I think he's well over 80 at least, But he knows. He's been around. And he was the head of the whole program at the time. But he says they had ways, even when he was around and active in it, that they could take a hurricane, steer it, they can make it stronger, and they can make it collapse in on itself by doing things to the leading edges of the hurricane. So I have tendency to think that there is more weather modification going on. And if you look at those big granite stones they built in Georgia, the Georgia Guidestones about reducing the population, so maybe this stuff is real. So what I say is get yourself some food storage. It's not like you're going to have money out the door, because someday you can just take the food and use it a little bit at a time. You're not going to lose money on it. It'll probably cost a lot more money later on. If nothing happens crazy and there's no panic, you're not going to lose out. It's not a financially bad decision. So that's why I recommend people having lots of food storage before they even go consider silver. And, I think you should have a good year's worth. So, now, I also want to mention something about this, because I'm not sure if it's the conspiracy doing this. It could be nature. And one of the best ways I could figure it out is, and it just changes, you could drink if this is bothering you. You got the liquor store right here. Get yourself a glass of wine, calm down. But this is probably reality. If you look at what and I'm not using a politically correct term because I forgot what it was, the Eskimos, and I don't want to mean nothing. I don't mean nothing bad about that. Somebody said that's the wrong word, but the Eskimos, like in Alaska, right? They're like hunters. They know the weather. They look at the sun. They look at the stars. They look at direction of the wind. They've been saying that over so many years. I don't know exactly. It wasn't a pinpoint date. But he says, like the snow tongues, the drifts, they used to go from the north. Now they're coming from the east. They changed completely in direction. Everything's all screwed up. The sun does not set in the same place. Now, if the sun set like 30 degrees off someplace, I would never notice it because I don't look at the sun. I don't look at the sun to get around, If anything, I'll use a GPS and a map. I don't look at the sun. I don't look at the moon. Average people don't look at this stuff. Hunters do. This is why I respect, and they got a lot more they said about this. I have more respect for their opinion than some guy from Harvard, Yale, MIT, or the National Weather Service. These guys are out there. They're PhDs in their own area. They're very, very smart. They understand what's going on. So when they say the snow drifts are going 90 degrees off, the sun is setting in a different place. They say the stars' positions are different. They're different. And they're also saying that like not just the sunset, but the number of hours of sunlight is changing during different times of the year. Sometimes they would normally have 1 hour, then they have 2 hours. So these guys know what they're talking about. And when I'm looking at, I don't even see how any HAARP weather machine or anything else could freaking change that. So it may be not just what's going on with the government. It may be some crazy crap that's going on in nature, So I don't want to panic anybody. If you panic too much, don't listen to Alex Jones. Get yourself some booze and have a drink. Just don't do it too much. And, it probably might be one of the smartest areas to get into, probably is agriculture. Jim Rogers says that's going to be the wealthiest area in the world. For the people that are into agriculture in the future are actually going to make the most money. I can't personally see it. I don't like doing that type of stuff, but maybe I will get into that if it makes money. But if I got the reason from agriculture and like the product like industrial hemp, you got food, you got booze, and you got fuel, energy. You got hempoline, you probably got hemp booze, right? Hemp oil, hemp plastics, and everything else. So that may be the commodity that saves the world. So today, looking at the charts. I'm not going to throw up a chart here because, to tell you the truth, I I think everything is going to still keep moving up, even though it went down a little bit today. I know they had some jobs data came out today about the unemployment. Like 800 something thousand jobs were created, the most they had in so many years. It's total BS because Obama did bad on his debate, basically. Freaking government numbers don't mean anything. I tell you the truth, they're a bunch of garbage. But because you're being paid, nobody audits the government numbers except people using common sense. It's like they had to put it's for the election and all that type of stuff. But what's probably going to happen, I swear, I think in the next few months or so, and I'm talking about October, November, December, probably into very early 2013, you're going to see a melt up, not a melt down, a melt up in the markets. You're going to see silver go up. I think oil is going to go up. It's not doing it right now, good. And gold, all the base metals, copper, palladium, platinum, agriculture, and that's due to the weather. Agriculture, probably the effects of all the weather have not really hit the prices yet. It's probably going to go way up. There's also a good correlation between agriculture and oil. And when oil goes way up in a hard bull run, that's when the correlation between silver and oil goes up too. Now, my common sense strategy is silver ratio to gold goes way down. That's when you want to sell a little bit, just a little bit. But don't just sit. I mean, you're not going to sit on fiat cash. Maybe that might be a good idea to wait for a pullback, but that's getting a little sketchy unless we got to some really crazy numbers on silver. I mean, if it goes up, like in other words, I'm going to sell some at 55, 60, maybe with even some physical, 70, and I'm just going to sell some. But if I see silver go to 100, I'm going to sell more. But I'm still going to keep the majority of it. I'm still going to keep the majority of it. Because I just can't see silver going up that fast in a straight line. It's going to, but I think it's going to take a few years. My projection for silver is when it really, really takes off is when you're going to see hot wars in the globe going on with China over resources and that type of stuff. That's when I think the commodities are all going to go through the roof. But you got to remember, if silver's going through the roof, oil's going through the roof. In other words, maybe you want to sell some silver to get a highly efficient diesel-powered car that gets 80 miles to the gallon runs on vegetable oil. Maybe that might be an asset exchange. You might want to do. That's where I'm coming from. Of course, you're going to have to take fiat money when a sale happens, but you know what I'm saying. Watch that gold-silver ratio. I think that's one of the most important things I'm saying. And QE, it's a no-brainer. Right now, in the short term, it's going to have to bring the price of all the commodities up quite a bit. And when I think they're going to pull back pretty hard is going to be 2013, when all this budget haggling comes to a head. And they don't get things straightened out as far as the budgets go. And reality catches up with them. Then you're going to see the panic into gold, silver, commodities, because they're not going to trust the U.S. dollar. The safe haven's going to take a major hit. And you're probably going to see, liquors up here. Companies that sell liquors, when I see this high tension and stuff, they seem to always sell good. They always sell good, And if you can make your own white lightning out of hemp, industrial hemp, hey, so be it. You can run it in your bike. You can drink it. You can use it for medicinal purposes. You can run it in your El Camino. And that might be actually a pretty smart idea what Jim Rogers is talking about. The farmers are going to make the best money in the future. I got to learn a few things. I'm definitely not from a farm area, so I don't know too much about it. But I can learn.